the government has been very clear on the matter of defence exports to the State of Israel, and the facts have been laid out in the Senate and defence officials in Senate estimates as recently as the last round only a few weeks ago. But I want to take the opportunity to reiterate what the government has already made very clear. Australia has not supplied weapons to the State of Israel since the conflict began, and for at least the past 5 years. Let me repeat that so there's no confusion. Australia has not supplied weapons to the State of Israel since the conflict began and for at least the past 5 years. Australia has a stringent export control framework which is designed to ensure our military and dual-use items are used responsibly outside of the Commonwealth of Australia. This framework applies to a wide range of goods and technology, including items used for civilian and commercial purposes, and as such, export permits should not be confused with weapons sales. Defence undertakes a rigorous assessment of each export application. This includes determining if there is an overriding risk that the export may be used in ways contrary to Australia's national interest or international obligations. If this risk is identified, Defence refuses the permit. As a matter of course, this framework accounts for changes in the strategic environment to ensure exports continue to align with our international obligations, noting that Australia is a party to and fully implements all major international arms control treaties, including the Arms Trade Treaty. I would also note the proactive steps that this government is taking to reform and strengthen Australia's export control framework. And currently before the committee I chair, the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee, we're holding a hearing this Friday on the Defence Trade Controls Amendment Bill 2023, which will strengthen Australia's export controls framework. The Hamas-Israel conflict is a deeply distressing issue for many in our community here in Australia, and one where people hold very different views, as is their right. So it is only right that our language on such issues and matters before us, and the truth underpinning this, matters. So it's important that we maintain that respect for each other. People come to Australia because they want to live in a country that is peaceful, tolerant, respectful. We must also work together to ensure that that distress in our community does not turn into hatred. And as community leaders, we need to be careful about how we say or articulate our points in this place. But sadly, time and time again, there are senators who peddle a false narrative on blatant misinformation. And the Australian government provides information in the interest of transparency. But sadly, we continue having interjections from the Australian Greens. The Australian Greens deliberately misinterpret that information for political campaigns. And this only divides the community and undermines trust in public institutions. We have seen the cost of that around the world. Acting Deputy President, repeatedly we have heard defence officials advise that Australia has not supplied weapons to the State of Israel, despite the Australian Greens continuing to ignore that advice. And for the past 5 years, not a single weapon has been sent over there, and yet continually we hear the Greens continue to incorrectly conflate export permits with the sales of weapons. Australia has a stringent control framework which ensures military and dual-use items are responsibly outside of Australia in ways that do not violate human rights.
Order, Senator Shoebridge.
And it has been a long-held practice of successive Australian governments to seek a transparency on these matters, as well as balancing national security considerations and commercial sensitivities. All Australians have a right to be safe and feel safe, but everyone should also be engaged in peaceful and respectful dialogue not reproducing overseas conflict in Australia. And I think I call on all senators to ensure that they are respectful in their debates in this place.